Welcome to Panels and Borders. I'm Dominic. So last week I did a video where I showed off some of the older Dune books I have, like the 6 original Dune books and some of the copies of Dune that I have. So I thought I'd do another one that show off the remaining Dune books I have, and these are the more controversial ones. So I'm going to start off with the House books by Frank Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson. So now these 3 books I'm going to show you are the last 3 Dune books I got from the Science Fiction Book Club. So the very first one that came out, and this came out I think in the late 90s, I'm not sure, is Dune House Atreides. And they did, it was like a trilogy of books, and so then you had Dune House Harkonnen, and the last one that came out was House Carino. So you can see they're all, now these are fairly small hardcovers. That's the thing about the Science Fiction Book Club. Their hardcovers were smaller than the hardcovers that you would pick up in a bookstore. So now 3 of these came out, and this one was pretty good. I didn't mind this one, but I found the middle book to be very boring. I had a really hard job getting through this one, and this last one was okay. So this was like an okay one. Now this is where the split in Dune fans kind of begin, because there are fans who reject all the Frank Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson stuff, and will only accept the first 6 original Frank Herbert books as canon, and not these ones. Now me, I enjoy these ones, but they are nowhere near as good as the original 6 Dune books. So those were the last 3. I got these from the Science Fiction Book Club. So now moving on. Now those 3 books were kind of a build-up, and so are the next 3. So these next 3 books, I got all 3 of these from the all on paperback from bookstores and stuff. And so the first one was, I believe in this series, was the Butlerian Jihad. So this kind of goes into the machines, all about the backstory of the machines and stuff like that. And then there was the Machine Crusade. I think the last one in the series is the Battle of Carino. So I just picked all these up in paperback, never did get them in hardcover. Now I wanted to get them through the Science Fiction Book Club, but I never had a chance because the Science Fiction Book Club here in Canada went out of business. So out of these 3, now actually I like these books. I thought were much more entertaining than the House books. These prequels about, because it kind of explained the whole backstory, how the machine wars went on and all that. Now this is another bone of contention among Dune fans. A lot of Dune fans do not like the way Frank Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson presented the machine wars. The Butlerian Jihad, because they believe it was originally intended to be more of an ideological war than an actual, this paints a very nightmarish Terminator type future. So this is a very more of a comic bookish, very action heavy way of telling the story. And where it would have been, I think, this is where a lot of fans don't believe Frank Herbert when he says he used his father's notes, because they believe that the stuff that's described in these books were not in his father's notes, and they just went out and did their own thing, but still trying to claim that it was what their dad had meant to happen. So there's those 3 books. And so now the next set of, now all those 6 books were all a build-up to the final book, Dune 7. And apparently, from what Frank Herbert and Kevin J. Anderson said, they wrote Dune 7 based on an outline and notes left behind by Frank Herbert when he died. And so they said the story was so big they actually had to split it up into 2 books. So the first half of Dune 7 was released, The Hunters of Dune. Now, I actually really liked this book. I thought it was very entertaining. This one, I liked it quite a bit. So this one was pretty good, and I actually kind of liked that format for all these covers. I thought that was kind of nice. And then the final one that came out, this was the conclusion of all the Dune books, was Sandworms of Dune. And again, a lot of people find this very controversial among Dune fans. They don't like the way the series ended. Me, I thought it was okay. I have no idea. Again, they don't believe Brian Herbert when he says that. Now, for anyone who hasn't read the books or anything, the spoiler is the final Kwisatz Haderach turns out to be the last Gola of Duncan, Idaho, and he ends up in the old enemy that came out of that drove the honored matres back in from the scattering was the machines of old, the old machines that humanity originally had a war with. And so the book ends with Duncan, Idaho becoming the final Kwisatz Haderach, and he actually ends up making peace between humanity and the machines, and that's how the book ends. So the bone of contention comes in that a lot of Dune fans believe that Brian Herbert never intended the enemy that was after the honored matres to be the machines, but actually a group of face dancers that had grown independent from their Talaxu masters. So I myself haven't seen the notes, so I don't know, but they were still entertaining books. And so there were those. Now the other ones that they released, and now these ones I have them, but I actually haven't read these books because I kind of lost interest in the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson stuff. And it's this one here, Paul of Dune and Winds of Dune. So now these are almost kind of like stories that kind of take place between, I think, Children of Dune and the original Dune book, stuff like that, or after. I'm not sure, but to me, I think this is where, okay, I can understand their motivation, wanting to go back and finish his dad's story. And so all the other books make sense because they're kind of they're setting up the machines is what they're doing. Basically, they're reintroducing everyone to the world of Dune with the first 6 prequel books, the House books, and the Machine books, Machine Crusade books. So the Machine Crusade books kind of introduces us to characters and stuff that would later pop up in the conclusion of the Dune series. Now, just going back and doing books that little stories that take place in between here and there and all that, to me, is just going overly milking it. So, these two haven't actually read. So now, this one I actually picked up in a thrift store. And this is Road to Dune. And this is actually where I got the idea for my series about the upcoming Dune film, Road to Dune, was from the title of this book. And this kind of goes into some early stuff, I guess, early drafts of Dune that Frank Herbert had and stuff like that. Now, this book, haven't actually read it yet. So that is that. So now, one thing that I did pick up I have to show, and this really contradicts a lot of the information, and this really contradicts the stuff that are in the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson books. And that is the Dune Encyclopedia. So I've read through this, and the way the machine war or the Butlerian Jihad is described in the encyclopedia is very different from the what happens in the 3 books that the 3 books that outline, or the 3 books that take place during the Butlerian Jihad. And from a money-making standpoint, it kind of makes sense that they would go the route they did, just because I think it would be, it's a more dumbed-down version, I think, of what Frank Herbert had intended, because now it's more of an action-packed thing, it's more of an action-packed book. So that's where in this, if you read it, it's more ideological, and it doesn't really paint humanity in the best light in the Dune Encyclopedia as far as the Machine Crusade goes. So this contradicts a lot of stuff that was in the prequel books and stuff. So that's where there's kind of a split between fans with the 2 book series. Me, I enjoy both books. I enjoyed the Kevin Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson books, or the Brian Herbert, Kevin J. Anderson books. But with that being said, they are entertaining, but they're nowhere near the 6 original books. Like Brian Herbert, he is not, Brian Herbert is not Frank Herbert. That is for sure. The apple fell quite far from the tree when it comes to writing and stuff. But they are entertaining, just as just pure science fiction schlock. They are entertaining nonetheless. And but nowhere near the original 6. So that's everything I got to say in this video. Let me know what you think in the comments section, and I will see you at the next one. Thank you to all of my subscribers, and thank you for watching this video. And if you're new to the channel, like, subscribe, and share. And don't forget to hit the bell icon for notification when new videos are uploaded.